Picture this, it's 1952, you're reading Nancy Drew in a pink quilted dress, lounging on the leather armchair in the corner of the living room, listening to your parents complain about Elvis's dancing or how long the Beatles' hair was. It was a typical American day in a typical American household. After dinner, you and your brother would play a round of competitive Clue or Monopoly on the carpet of the living room, because a TV was a far too futuristic dream that hadn't become a reality yet, for most people at least. Bicycles were everywhere. They were the mode of transport, those and roller skates, and you certainly weren't a kid unless you had one. That is your source of entertainment. You would ride your bikes around the neighborhood, basking in the warmth of the sun and the innocence of childhood. It was great fun. On days when you'd have guests over, you'd sometimes even watch a movie. It took a great deal of effort, though, because you'd had to set up a projector and a screen in the living room. The future seemed so bright with the world's booming economy and its booming suburban life and its booming advancements in trade, cars, housing, everything. Albeit the fact that politics and economy sounded foreign to a child's mind, the future seemed so bright with its civil rights movements and its promises for more and more and more. Serenity and contentment had begun to feel like a dream that morphed into reality, or perhaps it was an illusion. Put together by the naivety of your childlike mind, the future seemed so bright. Picture this, it's 1973, contemplating life as one does, laying across your bed with Jimi Hendrix playing in the background. You have on a turtleneck with a blazer on top and the infamous flared bottoms on. It was a time for social change. Martin Luther King's speech, although in '63, remains timeless, reaching over 200,000 people at the Civil Rights March and hundreds more over national broadcast. The memory of that speech captivated you and would continue to captivate you like nothing else could. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, a state sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The Congress passed the Civil Rights Act in '64, which prohibited segregation, public accommodation, and made discrimination in employment and education illegal. The student movement followed, where college students, united in protest against what is unjust, fought racism and poverty. The contemporary women's movement is next, where women fought for equal job opportunities and to end the ignorant stereotypes that chained them for far too long now. 1971, Congress banned discrimination against women and girls in schools, a chain of progression that rejuvenated mankind. Jimi Hendrix's Are You Experienced had stopped spinning on your record player, and a grin etched its way onto your face. The future seemed so bright. Picture this, it's 1995. You awake to a poster of Nirvana alongside a poster of Oasis hung up on the wall opposite your bed. In the morning, you'd probably have Pop-Tarts for breakfast, and in school, you'd wait with great impatience, you'd wait with great impatience for computer class, where you and your friends would make sick art on paint. And in the afternoon, you'd go to a bookstore where you'd do your homework or research or something. No kids had cell phones, no Twitter, no Snapchat. You were livid when Pokemon and Game Boy were banned at school. You didn't fear the unknown, because every day was full of the unknown. After you'd get home, you and your family would sit down to watch your much-needed dose of Friends, clapping along to the opening tune of the show. The future seemed so bright. The future seemed so bright when on the other side of the spectrum, violence against women had been once again cast in the spotlight as an important issue internationally. A silenced arena ready to listen, and women with an insightful perspective ready to teach us of the absurd difficulties they face on a daily basis. An awakening that reminded women of their potential. The Spice Girls, with their slogan of girl power, became one of the top pop acts of all time. Tattoos and piercings had gained popularity, identity was better explored. People were encouraged to express themselves in whatever format it may be. A couple of years ago, the World Health Organization, the WHO, removed homosexuality from its list of diseases. A milestone taking us one step closer to a world governed by acceptance and love for one another. The future seemed so bright. Picture this, it's 2018. You all sit here in rows, disillusioned by your education system. You're subjected to too much of the world at too little time, obsessing over memes or SoundCloud music, obsessing over your next Instagram picture, and somewhere across the world, a woman is fighting for the safety of her children, and nations are trapped under the heavy smoke of war. All these social movements were decades ago, yet it seems our time is the time of the past, not the future. Prejudice remains and is driven by the fuel of ignorance. People whom we don't understand and haven't bothered to understand are publicly harassed. Women with hijab on their heads scurry home as quickly as they left. People of color are subjected to the cruelty of stereotypes deemed violent and criminal when they are human. More than half of the world's population lives in poverty, and our planet is crying out for help because we produce. and we consume recklessly as though we have another planet in the back of our pockets to jump to. A population of robots is growing because we haven't watched enough dystopian or apocalyptic movies to have learned our lesson. A regression that's destined to lead a race to its downfall. Where do we draw the line? Does it end with us becoming the redundant inferior ones? Does it end with us aiding and abetting the foreigners and taking our homes? Our world is still dominated by the politicians of greed, our clear blue oceans becoming green seas of hatred and apathy. The big corporations and the elite companies are teaching us how to live as though they're rewriting the Quran or the Bible, and we blindly listen. People of minor ethnic origin or religion, people of inferior sex, are still caged behind the walls that we built. And we're not trying hard enough to knock them down, or at least not as hard as those who came before us. We've become the inequality and the hypocrisy that our ancestors have tried so hard to eradicate from this world. We were promised such a bright future, one of compassion and equality, mindful species that didn't make such obtuse mistakes. Picture this: the future is here, and it's a wasteland. Thank you.